Hey guys, this is God of Politics, and before we get started, please like this video and subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter, and join the Discord. I will have both of those linked down in the description, but today I'm going to be analyzing some new polls we've gotten, many new approval rating polls on President Trump, his handling of the coronavirus, and just in general, talking about the general election. We'll look at a model for the presidential election that's just been updated recently and what I think of it. But first, we'll get into these approval ratings. So, as we can see here, Trump's approval rating is at 47.3%, and his disapproval is at 49.7%, which is his highest for his entire presidency, his highest approval rating. But we did have, obviously, we had the best poll for him was the ABC News Washington Post poll, which is usually a left-leaning poll that had him at a +2 approval rating here. This was a very good poll for him. But now we did have two new polls come out today that weren't very good for him. Obviously, we had the Rasmussen poll that had him at -9, and then we had the Harvard-Harris poll that had him at -4. So you would assume that his approval rating might start to tick down a little bit, which is to be expected. Obviously, once these polls here go away, the Emerson poll, the Gallup poll, and the Monmouth poll, they were from, 10 days ago at this point, over 10 days ago, some of them. But once those polls go away, it's looking like his approval might take down a bit. It could go back up, but we will see as this election goes on. And it is going to prove to be important because if we look at some of the his handling of the coronavirus, his handling of the coronavirus is basically the inverse of his approval rating, 47 to 49. This is 51, 45 to it's similar, but basically, people are approving of his job at handling the coronavirus. Despite the media's attacks on him, people still seem to think that he is doing a good job. Whether he is doing a good job or not, the people seem to be thinking so, and that's something that's going to be really important for him. Obviously, there were some polls that were really good for him, like the Gallup poll that had him at 60% approval here. Some polls have gotten him at less. Obviously, we had some of the polls back here, but we obviously had the Harvard-Harris poll that didn't look good for him in the approval rating and also doesn't look good for him in the coronavirus response either. But obviously, you can see that a lot of people thought that more people would approve of him than approve of his coronavirus response. It's actually the opposite. More people approve of his coronavirus response than approve of him overall. And we'll see how much that impacts it depending on how long this coronavirus lasts, whether it'll go into the general election or not. But speaking of the general election, we do get into some of these general election polls. We have had some new polls. Obviously, this Harvard-Harris poll I talked about was not very good for Donald Trump. This poll had Biden up by 10 points, which is a huge margin. Obviously, we had a Fox News poll out the other day that had him up by 9. We had the very good ABC News Washington Post poll that still had Biden up by 2 points. But with Trump getting more of the vote than what he got last time, which was 45.8%, but even the poll that Biden is up by 10 in, obviously this doesn't account for the third party vote, but at this point, despite the fact that Trump's approval rating seems to be doing well, he does not seem to be doing too well in terms of the actual general election polling. And if you look at the polling, I'll have a video about this out tomorrow, but the polling for the national polling at least was pretty much spot on, only about a point off. So if we do see in this situation the aggregate where Trump is down below the margin by a pretty significant amount, over 1 percentage point lower than what he got in 2016. It's not going to take much to flip states like Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. And if Trump loses his grasp on those states, if his approval rating takes down too much, if he's down too much in the polls, more than what he was down last time, which was a pretty significant amount, but it looks like Biden might be even able to make up to that despite all the gaffes and everything. It looks like Trump could be in trouble, but we'll see how he handles the coronavirus because obviously a lot of the problems with the coronavirus have been in deep blue states, states like New York, states like California, states like Washington, but now you're seeing it starting to seep in into states like Louisiana, states like Ohio, Kentucky, those kinds of places. It's starting to get a lot worse in those places, and we might see that this number starts to go down as we are kind of seeing. Obviously, we had the 22 plus poll and the 12 plus poll from just over a week ago. Now we're seeing that his best poll was +7 for this week, which is still pretty good. It's not going to bring him down overall in his approval rating, but if he does start to, you said 100 to 200,000 people could die. If that actually does happen, that is going to hurt him regardless. Obviously, looking at this political polls, Twitter, follow me on Twitter, but I'll have the link in the description. We have so many of these polls here put around here. We also have one more. It's who would you trust more to handle the coronavirus? Biden is actually ahead of Trump by 6 points. And obviously, this YouGov Yahoo News poll isn't the best poll. It had Trump's approval at 40%, disapproval at 52%, when 30% of the poll people weren't even, people being polled weren't even registered to vote. But you can still see that it's not to say that Biden wouldn't be able to handle this. At least that's what the voters think. We haven't seen many of these kinds of polls, but what we have seen is that obviously there are undecided voters, but there are a lot of people that would believe that Biden would do just as good a job, if not better, than Donald Trump. So that's just an overview of all the polls that we have been seeing recently. We've seen a lot of new polls recently, especially the approval rating polls. They've been on the uptick recently. Everybody thought at first that it would be going down for Donald Trump. We saw he peaked at around, 46 percentage points here, and then he fell to about 43, but then he shot right back up pretty much. In the matter of just days, we saw a lot of his bad approval polls went away, and a lot of these good ones, especially that ABC News one, which really put the icing on the cake for him, pushed him back up to the top. So just to wrap this video up, this hasn't been a very long video, but just to wrap this video up, I'm going to talk about this presidential forecast here. I didn't want to do this in a whole video, so I'm going to talk about it at the end of this video. We have this JHK forecast. Now this guy actually got these, he did the Senate election of 2018, and he actually got it quite right. He only got 2 states wrong, and that was Indiana Senate race and Florida Senate race. Florida Senate race was obviously a razor-thin margin, but his models actually predicted the outcome that we had now, and that was pretty significant. And obviously, he has a very complex way of doing it. I'll actually link his website down in the description so you can check this out for yourself. But right now, he puts Joe Biden's chances of winning the White House at 55.5 percentage points and Donald Trump's at 44.5 percentage points. He gives the states Donald Trump won, states like Michigan, he gives Michigan a 66% chance. So in 2 out of 3 scenarios of these models, Joe Biden is winning Michigan, and in 57% of these models, Joe Biden is winning Pennsylvania. Obviously, he's got a lock on states like Minnesota, for example, states like New Mexico, states like Nevada even, states like Virginia, obviously, 85% for Virginia. That is going to be a very good margin for him. But it is going to come down to, obviously, like the states I've been talking about before, Wisconsin, which puts Donald Trump at a 50.4% chance of winning, and Joe Biden at a 49.6% chance. That is going to be razor thin for this entire campaign, I can tell you, unless Joe Biden takes Tammy Baldwin, which is what I've been saying he should do for a long time. And obviously with Arizona, Donald Trump is only at 59.9 percentage points, which is similar to what Joe Biden's at in Pennsylvania. So you have the same margin of a state Donald Trump won in 2016 flipping back to blue to a state Republicans have had since 1996 flipping blue. That's how you know that Arizona has trended. And obviously Florida, as always, is going to be the tipping point, as it says here. Florida, 54.3% chance to Biden, 45.7% chance. I do see that going to Donald Trump by around 1.5 to 2 points, but I could be wrong. This state could get closer depending on what happens. And even in North Carolina, it actually has it as a very close margin. So there is, obviously, this is what it puts overall. This is the chance of the White House. In terms of the popular vote, we have Biden up by 49.3 to 46, which would basically be the same margin for Trump, but it would be a larger margin for Joe Biden. The third parties not getting the same amount of vote actually seems to have helped Joe Biden. Obviously, it puts these chances, Wisconsin Trump plus 0.1, North Carolina Trump plus 0.8, Florida Trump plus 0.9. So you have 3 states here within a point for Donald Trump. There's no states even within a point for Joe Biden. Michigan is at 3 points. Joe Biden won that. Donald Trump won that in 2016. Pennsylvania's at 1.2 points. So if Donald Trump wants to win, he's going to have to keep Wisconsin, he's going to have to keep North Carolina, he's going to have to keep Florida, he's going to have to keep Arizona straight off the bat. And then just Arizona, Florida, North Carolina. Then he's going to have to win one of either Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan. I think the most likely scenario for him is Michigan, but that's what it says here, and I think that's pretty accurate overall. But yeah, I just wanted to look at this model. I will have a link down in the description if you want to check it out. You should check it out. I believe that it's actually going to be quite accurate as we are approaching Election Day. But yeah, thank you all for watching this video. Please like and subscribe as always, and I will see you guys later.